Hello and welcome to Daddy Daughter Fodder.
Where conversation meets culture.
You know, maybe we should say where conversation clashes with culture.
Yeah, classes.
Just try it.
Conversation clashes culture.
No, conversation. All right, anyway, moving right along. We've got something interesting for you today. Now, all through the headlines, and Lauren, I think you would agree, we're seeing the ravages of the ravages.
Ravaging.
Ravages. The results of failed ideology and thinking. And when I say that, very often I'm thinking that about thinking and behavior that is inconsistent with reality.
Yes.
Now,
been a lot of that running around.
Yeah, a lot of it. And one example is all of the violence that we're seeing in a lot of these cities who have been so anti-law enforcement.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember in the 80s and 90s where things began.
Stone Age.
Where there was this shift to criminal rights. In other words, everything became about protecting the one who was breaking the law.
Yes.
Which there should be that aspect of good law enforcement, but at the same time, yeah. But when you hamstring law enforcement and you vilify those who are simply trying to enforce what Congress and legislatures and mayors and the rules, the laws, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I think what we're seeing is that in these cities.
I think you're speaking from privileged white male standpoint. He was there with the straight face.
Well, there was a mayor that come out, African American mayor, just to counter your white privilege
Lori
perspective.
Lightfoot, perhaps?
No. It was another mayor, and he is actually
never mind.
He's switching parties. He's going, listen, this particular party, and I won't say what party he was associated with. We're talking about an ideology, and sometimes we can just group parties, and that causes divisions, and we'll talk about that.
Marginalizations.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in another series. Divide and conquer is what I call that. Can't wait to talk about that. Shameless plug, by the way, a future episode. Anyway, he said, look, I am seeing the results of these policies, and this is crazy. You know, there was a police officer that an assassination attempt the guy pulled up next to him and shot him in the head.
That's crazy, bro.
But this is what happens. Now, this ancient document called the Bible basically says when justice is deferred, lawlessness increases. Imagine that.
Such a novel concept.
So people are kind of waking up to this idea. Yeah, but sometimes I feel like the biblical and the logical and the rational side of things is over promoted here on this particular show. So I want to introduce somebody to kind of stand in on behalf of the irrational thinkers. Can we introduce?
You know, we as conservative movements always feel like we're talking from the one side, and the other liberal standpoints will be talking from the other side. And there's no middle ground. There's nobody for checks and balances. So allow us to introduce our friend.
And I like to think more Christian versus heathen. So in the old days, there was Hannity and Combs. I don't know if you remember that. Sean Hannity started out. He had another very liberal counterpart that did the show with him. So we're bringing on Ogden. Ogden is here.
The orangutan. Yeah, I know he's not an orangutan, but we're going to pretend he is because he can be whoever he wants to be.
Now, whenever he has a very logical and valid argument from a different perspective, he's going to jump right in. Ogden, can you bring that other perspective? Yes.
Yes, I can. I can do it. I can bring.
Okay, there you go. So he's going to speak up. He's going to speak up for insanity. I mean, for immorality. I mean, for something else. Anyway, so let's talk about that for a moment. As we have seen these cities just fall into chaos. What do you think?
You know, I'm so glad that you mentioned this because I actually just made a video on this. Like, literally last week I made a video on this, and I basically talked about, you know how whenever you were dealing with a parent that like decided to raise their kids gentle parenting style, like they would literally just get timeouts or something. They were the worst heathens you ever met. You better believe these children were menaces.
They're worse than pastors' kids?
Oh my gosh. Like, I don't know about that because like, I mean, pastors' kids are pretty bad.
Other topic.
Anyway, the point is, they were just these menaces, and I was like, "Are you crazy? Girl, come get your kid." But the point is, whenever the parents enforced physical forms of punishment, I don't know what I'm allowed to say. Physical forms.
Yes, we spanked our children.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, don't ruin the algorithm. I worked so hard to fabricate it.
I'm sorry. Are you endorsing spanking of children? Only if it works.
which it does, because these are menaces. And I was like, listen, but whenever the parents enforced some physical form of spanking, these kids were generally more well-behaved, because even with your tiny little child mind, you can conceptualize, ooh, pain equals bad. That actually really freaking sucks for me, and I shouldn't go back, and I shouldn't do what I did, because you can even grasp that as a child. And so why do we treat adults any differently? Why do we change up the gears? Like, look at California.
Well, what you don't teach them as children, you have to teach them as adults. Crime and punishment. That's the idea. Discipline for a child is not punishment necessarily. It is teaching them discipline.
Yeah,
what is that? Behavior has consequences. If I jump on my four-wheeler or my dirt bike and I drive down the street of my city, consequences are I should lose my four-wheeler or my off-road vehicle.
That sounds so personal.
If you can't figure that out, if you don't understand that, you're Ogden, okay? I love you, but if you can't understand how that is unsafe for them and everybody else, and to allow them to do it, and you say, well, don't chase them because they might get hurt. Okay, so what happens when they kill somebody or they kill themselves? They might get hurt. Maybe if we set a standard called the law and we enforce that standard, maybe it will eradicate the behavior, and it is a win for everybody. But when we defer the punishment or the accountability for a crime, why make a law if you're not going to enforce it? I'm sounding like a parent here. I'm sorry.
Yeah. By the way, I can hear all of you in the comments going, you said punishment, you said consequence, you said discipline. I'm using them all interchangeably. Use it what you will. Do not get caught up in semantics.
Yes,
I don't want to hear it.
And I'm not talking about something disproportionate. We're not talking about child abuse. We're not talking about abusing a criminal. But we look at something for rehabilitation's sake. And I'm going to tell you, punishment doesn't rehabilitate anybody. It is a deterrent. Justice, consequences are a deterrent from doing it. If they're broken, they're broken. If they know they can get away with it, they're going to get away with it.
They'll do anything you can get away with. Some people are like, all these other countries, they have like low crime, they have low this, low that. Because like for some countries, the punishment for stealing is like literally death.
Okay, this is going to get good. I'm going to go old school on you. In my day, when I was growing up, they had something called corporal punishment in the schools. What did that mean? It meant that the teacher took you into the hall, they brought along a witness, and they pulled out this paddle, a paddle of their choosing. I wish I had a good prop around.
Okay,
anyway, they pulled out.
I don't.
And they would explain to you the crime, they would explain to you the trespass, and they would give you a pop with the paddle. Now, let me tell you what the biggest issues that we were dealing with. Now, I was in a transitional moment. This was, mid-'80s, '90s. But what would happen is we dealt with talking back, talking in class, chewing gum, passing notes.
Wow.
And now
Scandalous.
we eradicated that. And what do we see now? We see rape. We see gun shootings in our schools, not just people coming into the schools and doing it, but shootings among the students. We see fights and gangs. We see all of this stuff. Why? Because the worst thing that can happen to them, hang on, stay with me. The worst thing you can do is send them home for a 3-day vacation.
Dang it.
Yeah, they get to miss out on lunch. I will say lunch was my favorite part of school.
Wait, you mean they got rid of corporal punishment?
Yes. Well, I'm sorry, you were homeschooled. See, now something happened recently that was beautiful.
You picked up on that far too quick. That is not bad. I'm just going to leave. You don't even need me.
Every kid was just reintroduced to corporal punishment during the COVID experience, where everybody went home, and all of a sudden, the parents were like, okay, they won't listen to me. Now, welcome to being a teacher. Anyway, sorry.
I would not want to be a teacher. I'm so sorry. My best friend is trying to be a teacher, and God bless her soul, I cannot do it. Well,
I'm so glad to see a lot of these cities and a lot of the leaders in these cities making the responsible decisions to enforce laws. Listen, for the good of the law keepers. Now, something that's very interesting is laws are not there for the law keepers. They are there for the law breakers.
If we were all really good people and we all were just really moral, normal people, we wouldn't need laws.
Yeah.
Novel concept, I know.
Well, and if everybody if everybody didn't knock off retail stores, and the stuff that is going on in these cities, homeless camps in the centers of the cities, because the cities have said, yeah, we're going to encourage them to do drugs. We're going to legalize these drugs. Have you not figured it out? I won't name any cities, San Francisco. I won't name any cities, Portland. I won't name any of these cities, but Think about it. The insanity of let's help them do it safely. Those are the same ones who said, you know what? I'm going to let my kids drink. They're going to do it anyway.
As long as they drink at home.
As long as they drink at home. And you know what? I'm going to let my kids smoke pot. As long as they smoke. You know what? If you're that person, repent. You need help because you're a part of the problem. What if we held a standard in our home that was consistent with law and common sense? Think about how that would change things.
What do you think, Ogden?
Ogden?
What do you think?
He has no rational response. There you go. There is no rational response. Well, I won't. My kids are going to do it anyway. That's the rational response. Yes, they will do it if they don't have oversight, just like criminals would do it if they don't have accountability. So what we're seeing, and tell me if I'm wrong, what we're seeing on a macro level in these cities are basically the result of the microcosms that are happening inside of the home.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh. It's like if you have like these broken homes, these unstable homes, these parents will let them get away with anything. I think growing up, like I used to watch like these kids absolutely lose their mind in the middle of Walmart. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, if I like lost my mind in the middle of Walmart like this child my age doing it, my parents would like crucify me in the front yard. Like I 100% was like, we do not do that. We do not do that.
Never crucified a child in the front yard or the backyard, just for the record.
They didn't say they hadn't thought about it. Point is, I knew for a fact that was not appropriate behavior. That was not okay. And I remember asking, I was like, Mom, why are they like letting their kid do that? Like, what is wrong? And Mom was like, well, you don't know the whole story. You don't know what's going on. You really don't understand. And then someday she'd be like, well, the parent feels guilty for not being a good parent, so they have to go with.
Of course. Okay, so instead of just screaming at the darkness, let us offer some light. Let's make some common sense. Now, if the school is not going to teach morality,
right,
which if you're deferring to the government to teach you morality, that's another Ogden moment. Okay, there's no good reason for you to do that. They are not the bearers of morality. They are the enforcers of law and the protectors of our country. But if you really have and are facing that disparity of what is morally right, how do I train my kids? Can I encourage you to do something very, very simple? Take you and your kids to church. Learn that moral standard. Learn that what is often the antithesis of our cultural values that actually work.
Yeah, I have heathen friends that are even like, man, you know, I might not be Christian, but even biblical values they work in real life, they work in reality. And so I was like, listen, anyone can benefit from that. So
you can. And see, people are always trashing Christianity and trashing things, but the problem with that is that Christianity is consistent with reality. In other words, if you do very often, in fact, let me give you a good example. Is it time for a shameless plug?
Always time for a shameless plug.
It is time for a shameless plug. You know, we generally don't promote items here on the show, but we are going to promote a particular item today. Now,
this product has been very useful. It's been very, very useful, particularly in the past couple centuries.
Okay, here we go. Today we are promoting for you a special offer. It's called the Holy Bible. Oh, I read that wrong. The Holy Bible. Okay, now this is life's instructions before leaving Earth. Okay,
basic instructions before leaving Earth.
I've heard it both ways. Anyway, so this is a Bible, and there's incredible instructions. And you say, but I've heard some bad things. What are some bad reviews that you've heard concerning the Bible?
Well, whenever I like to get a laugh, I do like to read 1-star reviews on Goodreads. Sure, are those people like desperately depraved and immoral? Yes, but it's funny. They're funny. They haven't lost their humor, even if they've lost their souls. Point is, someone said, man, I really loved the Bible, but they killed off my favorite character. And then like 3 minutes later, oh, never mind, he's chill. And I'm like, okay, whoa. That was nice. I actually think someone's posted that on Twitter before, so I'm sure you've heard that. But the point
that's good. Main character came back.
Yeah, because main character is like really cool. I mean, he doesn't show up till halfway through, but like as usual, like keeps us second guessing. This was great. Like love the contributing authors.
And I have heard incredible knocks against this particular item. However, everybody who uses it seemed to give it rave reviews. Number one,
everyone who uses it correctly,
and everyone who has an argument doesn't seem to have an alternative.
Ogden, what do you think?
He said, I have no opinion on that.
All right, here we go. In all seriousness, think about this. Why even theologians, even liberal theologians, attack the validity of the word, the intrinsic value of the word. I heard somebody say this Bible, and this is huge. They said this Bible has no intrinsic value.
Was it Dan? You're arguing.
Don't call name. But they said this Bible has no intrinsic value. They said the only value is when a culture decides to adopt it or not adopt it. So what he was saying or inferring was that this Bible has no value, intrinsic value in and of itself, and it's only relevant if you choose to make it relevant. Here's the problem. That's not the case. What this Bible has is intrinsic value. What does that mean? It means that the consequences that it says you will experience are real consequences. See, the Bible is consistent with reality. When you behave inconsistent with reality by not punishing crime with justice, there you go, but by not disciplining your children and raising them correctly, you suffer in a real world, in a real life, real consequences. Huh? You've got that look in your. We're going to promote it one more time. All right.
Why do I feel like Vanna White?
Yeah, Vanna White. Anyway, so one more shameless plug. Just a reminder, we are pro-life here. We love all life, and we especially love the little babies. Yeah, you got this. 40 days for life. 40 days for life. Yeah. If this campaign, any other campaign, look, make a difference. Make a decision to make a difference. Don't just make a decision. Put it on your calendar. Mark it, whether it's getting involved with your local 40 Days of Life or on your local school or chapter.
Yeah, Students for Life. Anything you got to do with that, 100%. Just saving the children.
All right.
Actually, not even. Thank you so much for joining us this time. We really appreciate you guys being here, and we will see you next time.